Let's first talk about levels. Levels are the support and resistance lines we talked about before. But as we know from our previous example, the levels we talked about were flat. But that is not always the case. Levels can be also facing downward or upward under different angles, and they can change very frequently. In an upward or a downward trend, we can also draw something called the trend line. Trend lines help to provide entry and exit points for a trend. When you see a stable uptrend or a downtrend formation on the chart, what you want to do is to connect as many low points of this trend as possible with only one line. Connecting only 2 points can be helpful, but is not considered very strong. When you are able to connect at least 3 stable low points, that is considered a strong trend line, especially if the time frame you are using is larger, for example daily or weekly chart. As I said, trend lines help to provide entry and exit points for a trend. If the price breaks the trend line, that indicates a possible trend reversal. Uptrend trend lines connect the low points, but if you draw one more line above this trend line, connecting all the peak points, you create something called the channel. Channel is like a little tube you draw around a trend to indicate the peaks and troughs in the trend, which helps you for the future to predict where will the next peaks and troughs occur. And overall, a channel can help you to indicate when the trend is ending or changing course. As the price of an asset moves within the channel, the top points become the rising resistance levels and the low points become the rising support levels. So as you can see, the support and resistance levels don't always have to be flat. They can also be rising, or if we have a downward channel, they can be falling. Let's now talk about the downward trend in general. So far, we have explained to you how to draw a trend line and a channel in an uptrend. But in a downtrend, you have to, instead of the low points, connect all the peak points, preferably 3 or more peak points to create one trend line. To create a downward channel, you then simply add a second line connecting the low points. Such downward channel then creates an indicator for falling support and resistance levels. When it comes to the angle of the channel, the best and most stable angle in which the channel goes up or down is 45 degrees. If the channel is too steep, be ready for a correction. If the channel is too flat, the trend is weak. Do remember that the trend lines have to be constantly overdrawn as the market changes, and once the price breaks out of the channel, we have to disregard the old channel and form a new one based on the new highs and lows. Drawing a trend line, a channel, or levels works in any time frame. Just in general, do remember that the larger the time frame, the stronger and more reliable the information. Let's now do some screen sharing and draw levels, trend lines, and channels together. Hello everybody and welcome to the screen sharing about trend lines, levels, and channels. Before we get to actually drawing, I just want you to understand whether it is a flat level or a rising level, we can apply both. If I see an uptrend like I see right here, it does not mean that I'm going to apply only the rising support and resistance levels, therefore only the channel and the trend line, okay? I can apply the flat levels as I go within an uptrend as well. It doesn't mean that it's a consolidation trend, so I'm going to apply only the flat levels. No, you can always apply both, and I will show you how. So yes, we're going to be doing trend lines, etc. But just look at this. If I in this chart apply this particular resistance level that is flat, it still does help me with my trading. You see that here it worked as a resistance level, here it worked as a support, here it worked as a resistance level, then it went way below, and here again it was a resistance and a support level. So I have to be using all these levels for my trading. It really doesn't work like oh, it's an uptrend, I'm now going to be using only the rising ones. It's a downtrend, let's do falling ones. No, it doesn't work like that. You always draw everything. You draw all the flat resistance and support, especially if it's a longer time frame chart like this is 1 week, which is a long period for trading. And then within a trend, you also draw your trend lines and therefore your channels. So I'm going to leave this one in just so you see how it works. And now we're going to draw the trend line. So we have these two beautiful trends right here. I have one uptrend on the left and one downtrend. So with the uptrend, I'm going to do a green one. You can see if I would be drawing the trend line, I simply am trying to connect the low points. I go just not exactly on that. It's never going to be exactly on that, but I just try to connect it so it makes sense altogether. And then I'm going to take one more of these lines and I'm going to immediately also create the channel, which is basically me connecting the peak points. So I'm going to create these two. So for example, this is what I would have done if I was approximately in this area, right? So let's just say that this does not exist yet. We are right here. So we have connected the low points, which is our trend line, and we have then finished the entire channel. So if it moves within the channel, that's my indicator, right? Therefore, I know that if the price is going down, it very probably will bounce back up from there. But you can also see that here it went above the channel. So for some, this would have been an indicator to buy here instead of selling because they expected to go even higher, which it did quite a bit because this is a longer time frame. So this was actually a couple of months, this uptrend. But then it returned to the channel, and not only that it went all the way down, but it actually has broken through. So this would be again an indicator if you did have the old channel still drawn that this is a broken rising support. So therefore you try to sell, you try to short it, you try to really cover your losses. And as you can see also, a lot of people did exactly just that. Then it was hovering a bit above this, around this support line. This is why I'm telling you that these are important too. But then it broke completely under and just went down from there. So at this point, if this happens, I have to disregard my old channel and I simply have to do a new one. So this time I'm connecting the peak points because that's what you do with a downward trend, right? So I'm going to connect now approximately the peak points of this channel. And then I'm going to finish, of this trend, and then I'm going to finish the channel by connecting the low points. So that would be approximately this. Okay, so this would be how I will be drawing it. Here again, like it dropped a little bit under, so you could have had shorted it and make a little bit of money, but it's not such a significant breakage. You can see that these 5 candles are kind of in a consolidation trend. So if it's not a big fall like this, just make sure that you do the right decision and you wait a little bit for it to really break the level. Okay, you have to give it a little bit of space. But otherwise, you see that it really does travel within this beautiful channel, and only here it really breaks off. Also, this formation of candles does indicate a bullish trend. We will also get to candles themselves and their formations very soon. So it did break the channel and just went into a very nice bullish trend. So if you have seen that it has broken the channel, right here you would have bought approximately like on this candle somewhere you buy and go long, and that would have been a really great strategy because it has risen a lot from this particular point. And as you can see, it was hovering a little bit again around our support level, which here became a resistance level because we got under it. Okay, so that is why all these lines are very important to draw, and they can really help you with your trading.